right, take it away.
Well, thank you. As he said, my name is Jeff Urban. I'm with Solutions Design Group. We're a local IT consulting firm. We're excited to be a sponsor here. We focus in the business application development space. We have a little over 100 consultants doing a lot of open source projects, obviously with the LifeRay product. We also are a Microsoft managed partner and also have project delivery capabilities. I have some cards out there where you signed up, so if you have any questions just to learn more about SDG, happy to talk to you further about that. But really why you're here, obviously, is to learn a little bit more about the LifeRay portal. So we actually have 3 presenters that are going to be sharing different pieces of information on the LifeRay portal. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. John Helmberger is going to kick us off. John is our director of our open source practice and has a very strong understanding of the LifeRay product. And so with that, John, take it away.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm John. I'm going to get my slides to work here in a second. So that's me. So I don't do like a great deal of like user group presenting or anything like that. So the guy who leads our Microsoft practice sent me this. And he was like, it's going to be super easy, dude. You're going to be awesome. And so hopefully it goes well for us. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask before we just start presenting stuff and having everybody drop off into boredom, why are you here? What do you hope to learn? I mean, other than the fact that, you got some, Jimmy Johns out there, and maybe it's a habit that you stop by here, every once in a while. Any takers? I'll start pointing at people. How are you?
I'd like to know what I think.
So just generally what it is, what it's used for?
Same here. Some of the CMS capabilities, probably more.
CMS stuff? We'll cover some of that.
Also see what kind of applications are using LifeRay.
So what are common use cases, who's succeeding with it? We can even probably share a little bit about what it's not good at, which I think is always pretty helpful. And just right? It's okay, guy. Anybody else?
Integration with the other CMS, other web content management, how do they integrate?
Okay, so with an existing content management system, something like that?
Yeah, Stellum, or whatever.
Sure. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about identity integration and how that works. That'll be good. You've been here since right when we started. You might have been the first person in the door.
Yeah, so we have some of our teams in I work for US Bank, so some of the teams are using this.
Sure.
So we had some presentation last week, I guess, at the bank, so I just want to understand what the product can do.
Right on. Okay. Well, I think we'll cover most all of it, so it'll be good. So 3 sections. I'm going to do the first section, just talk a little bit about enterprise portals in general. I want to do that to set a baseline because I know if you've been doing this for a while and are anything like me, I did a lot of portal work in the late 90s, early 2000s, about 10 years ago, and then portals kind of fell off the map, and it was kind of well, why the heck did that happen? So having done a bunch of kind of research for our customers and helping them do vendor selections and all that kind of stuff, I kind of came up with, a small set of reasons why I think that enterprise portals are on the way back. Then we'll turn it over to Brian, who is in his LifeRay shirt here, to talk a little bit about LifeRay, the organization, kind of where they're seeing in the marketplace, who they compete against, things like that. And then we'll get on to the stuff that you really want to hear, which will be presented by Brett here. So hopefully that'll be the majority of the session. And Brett will talk about the inner workings, a little bit about kind of some common uses within the platform. So what's a portal? Man, execs love to get worked up over portals, right? They're like, we need a portal. It's going to have everything on it. It's going to have rainbows and bunnies and duckies and stuff. And really what it is something that's oversold by vendors. They come in and they feed that, right? It'll do this and it'll do that. It'll cover this space for you. It'll cover that space for you. And at the same time, these executives are building up in their heads, it's something that they is way more work than they're ever expecting, and needs way more definition than they would ever think it would need, and is way less out of the box than they would ever assume it'd be. So what is it? Kind of a definition that I've worked on for a while. Here's the things that I think that it does. I think it, and I think that we see like needs on this list. I mean, these are the types of things that you hear when people say, I want a portal, right? So I want to, personalize for my employee in case of an intranet. I want it to keep track or display transactions. I want to be able to see that online or on a mobile device. I want it to know something about me and tailor that information. We hear that a lot. So what I don't want you to think of a portal as is portal circa late 90s, early 2000s, right? So don't think of portal like a bunch of little boxes on a page. Don't think of it as a hyper-thin kind of presentation layer that just links off to other apps or kind of iframes apps and things like that. Don't think of it as something that you're going to take out of the box and install and just be like, bam, there it is. It's all in place. What do you think? That doesn't happen. And this is probably the biggest truth down here at the bottom, is that a really good enterprise portal, which is what LifeRay is, it's an enterprise portal, really does require a decent amount of work to pull off. So this is a quote, and I like this quote. This guy says, the success of the enterprise portal depends on the degree of integration of an enterprise's front-end systems with Becky saying, integration is everything, right? And again, this was said by a dude in like 2001, right? And he was dead right. He was dead right, and it's still the key to an enterprise portal. Without the integration, you're not going to have it. So I'm going to share a little bit about what I learned. So I alluded to this question earlier. This dude here is like, I just spent a ton of money on a portal, and it sucks. So he doesn't want to spend money on a portal 10 years later. So next one. So some things have happened here. Systems integration, probably the biggest one. It's matured. So we have patterns now that didn't exist before. We have tooling around integration that didn't exist before. We build integration now with reuse in mind. That often wasn't the case with early portals. Next one, mergers, acquisitions, the marketplace, constantly changing. The marketplace, portal marketplace, there were a lot of portals, and it caused a lot of confusion. What we see now is some shrinking options, which is actually, I think, kind of good. And what we find then is capabilities that are coming out. It's not the legacy people that are still trying to rebuff their stuff from 10 years ago that's good, but some of the newer guys are actually taking the lead. So what did late 90s look like? ODBC, JDBC connections. People didn't build robust APIs into their disparate applications, right? So enterprises go out, they install apps here and there. They didn't have, the user expectation wasn't even there for robust API. It was like, oh, maybe we got a table that you could throw some things into that would write back into our tables, but we're certainly not going to let you touch our tables because it's our app, right? Standards really weren't there. Vendors didn't want you to work with their data, really. They wanted to keep it close or sell you services to have so today, right, you can kind of see what's happened there. Mergers, acquisitions. I don't know, in the Java world, everything bought by Oracle. That kind of happened. Start from here. I don't know if anybody watches Breaking Bad, but if you do, it's like, what? So this left people confused. They're like, what do I even buy anymore, right? Like, at least before I could go and they had something called Plumtree, and it looked cool and had a neat name. That sounds like a good option if I don't want Oracle. But if you're an enterprise shop, right, if you have an Oracle contract, you don't even know what to buy anymore. I wish my brother's a sales guy for Oracle, so I wish he was here to. But, yeah, you go to the next one. So the other thing that's happened is our options have come way down, where we had hundreds of portals, a lot of them not very good. When it comes to enterprise portals, there's not that many viable options out there. I mean, you could maybe make a case for 20. And why is that, right? A lot of people just fell off the map. They weren't able to give it a go. Other people were bought by Oracle. Other people said, we're going to attack this industry. You know, we're gonna be the portal for healthcare. We're gonna be the portal for some other industry. So what is the open source stuff that's coming out today? What does that offer us? Offers us all the things that that we would expect. I don't even know what this slide is. But anyways, long story short here, the Oracle products have a lot of this red stuff in here, right? So I sat in on an Oracle Web Center demo for a customer one time about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And they were like, check this out. And they pull up their IDE, right? Well, of course, you know, they don't let you use Eclipse. You got to use their IDE, right? They were like, hey, check this out. It's Web 2.0. And I was like, sweet, Web 2.0. Let me see it. Yeah, I've never seen it before. I really have never seen it before. That's a whole other story. But then they took like a portlet and they drag and dropped it from one column to another. They were like, check it out. And I'm like, it's cool. I thought, you know, Web 2.0 was something different, but but they were really proud of it, you know. And the thing is you also needed their proprietary knowledge to be able to do it. So what happens is you know, you get in bed with a big vendor, you start using a big product, and next thing the kind of control falls out of the kind of everyday technologist's hands, and you know, that's bad. Sometimes bad ownership for companies who want to put this stuff in. Is there another slide? I have one. And these are like modern web portals, including LifeRay, and I think kind of the two big ones on here, even though I don't have the other one blue, is the connectors and APIs. So I think we see a lot of that, and not only to common applications that exist within the enterprise or common patterns, but also to cloud-based services. We see that quite a bit. And then the other thing is open standards, you know, and just saying, hey, we're not going to try to box you in here. We're just going to make as many things available as possible, and you can choose how to integrate with our product. Any more slides?
Yep.
Okay. That's one. Brian hates this slide. So LifeRay, it's not perfect, right? It's totally not perfect. But in my opinion, when you come to the enterprise portal, especially an enterprise portal written in Java, it's absolutely the best product out there. If you're going to put in a portal on Java, I really believe that LifeRay is the way to go. I look at it as a web development platform. I think that's a key distinction. You can use the tooling that you want, so the things you're familiar with. You want to use, LifeRay offers MVC, for example. You've talked more about this, but you know, LifeRay offers their own MVC pattern. Well, that's great, right? You can use Spring MVC if you want. Nothing preventing you from doing it. It's fine. And really, at the end of the day, I believe it allows you to give those experiences back to the customers that they're expecting and that they want. Brian?
Thank you.
Here, clip for you.
My name is Brian Imholt. I'm a senior account manager for LifeRay. John and I actually met back in 2001 at when he was a consultant for a company I worked for, and then later on, back in 2008, John came into that same organization, did a interesting research project on portals and enterprise portals, and picked LifeRay. At that point, I joined John on that project, and I was the program manager for the deployment of that portal, and we actually learned LifeRay very well together. So from there, I went on and did some other things, and then wound up working for LifeRay, which is kind of weird. So I'm in a different role right now than I'm used to, but it's definitely interesting to go from a customer side to now a vendor. So what I want to talk to you about today is really LifeRay itself. But before we kind of get into that, I want to give you a little bit of the history. LifeRay was started about, well, really what it was about 12 years ago. The founder, Brian Chan, was working on Oracle, was unhappy with the portal products that were out there, and started building LifeRay. He built it to basically for his church. And the process kind of rolled along, and then what LifeRay did is they started as an open source company, produced the product, and then was basically for the first 5 years of existence as a consulting company to basically service the community edition. During that period, it became hard for LifeRay or the engineers, the core engineers, to actually work on the product itself because they were outside consulting and spending all the time doing that. So then we kind of switched models to have a dual model, which is a community edition and an enterprise edition. In essence, they're the exact same thing. There's some differences within features, there's some differences within code, but LifeRay is an enterprise portal with community. So, in other words, what LifeRay is trying to be enterprise open source. That's really what we are. We're a company of about 350 people that's growing. We have offices all over the world. LA is where we're basically based out of. That's where the bulk of the employees are. We have people in all across the United States, including I'm here in the Minnesota headquarters, which is located in my basement. It's sad, but there is another LifeRay employee, and he thinks he's located in the Minnesota headquarters in his basement. We fight a lot about that. He's in St. Paul, I'm in Andover. But in essence, we have an office in Ohio, we have an office in Hungary, France, Germany, London. We have, did I say Hungary? Portugal. We've got one in Portugal that just started. We have an office in China. There's another weird story about that one. And we have offices. Yep. Sorry to interrupt.
Can you speak to what the licensing differences are between the enterprise and the community edition?
What is? God, I can't forget the specific one. As far as like,
all right. So I want to build a website. Let's say I've got a customer. They want to build a website, and I decide LifeRay is the correct choice for them. Why would I need? What features would I need that would make that say, all right, I can't use the community edition, I need the licensed enterprise?
Basically, the difference in why you should spend the money and buy the is the support.
Okay.
It's really the support. There's a couple distinct differences between the community edition and the enterprise edition. There's some server monitoring, some basic monitoring stuff. There's a couple key features that aren't in there, and that I have to look at the website to remember what those are. But in a nutshell, you're buying support. Is really what you're buying.
I think you're also buying a little bit. When they're putting it out as a supported product versus a community product, they're also paying a little bit more attention to quality. So typically, if the community comes up with a new feature, that will typically come out in the community edition before coming out in the enterprise edition. And then once it's vetted against all the enterprise edition codes, then typically. So, not to say that either code base is perfect, as no code base is, but yeah, it's more of a product, level quality.
Okay.
There are quality differences. Interestingly, we think there's about 500,000 installs of Community Edition. We think from some clever Google research looking for Qs in the header. Somewhere, and that's a conservative number, that's the ones that are public, there's about 4,000 enterprise installs across the world. Actually, we used to be largely North America, but the EU has gone crazy for enterprise installs, as well as we're seeing a lot in India too, and South America. Oh, I forgot to mention Brazil. So that's really who LifeRay is. But LifeRay offers a couple key products. First of all, it's the portal. We have a social office, which is, anybody familiar with Jive? It's LifeRay's response to Jive. Basically, it's a bolt-on that does a lot of those features. It's like a pre-built social office for the enterprise. We have an app marketplace, so basically we're trying, and you'll have to excuse me, I have a cold and I'm getting over one, so my voice is going to crack. I can already feel it. But we have a marketplace, so this is brand new to LifeRay within this version, is we're basically harvesting the community to build applications. When those applications, they can submit it to us. We'll go through and check it, verify it, run it against RTA, make sure nothing breaks, and then we'll put it out in the marketplace. That could be free or for cost or depending on what they want to do. So we're already starting to see traction on that. People throwing up different kind of applications that they built. So basically an Apple model. And then LifeRay Sync, which is Dropbox for LifeRay. Basically back to the content management piece, you can get at, just like a Dropbox, you can get at from your desktop, or you can even get at from your iPhone or Android. We have native apps for both of those, so it's pretty cool. So the first thing I think that kind of puts us in there is we are a company of 350 plus people, and we're competing with the big boys. I think that's cool. I think the story of, and I'm probably talking too long, so I'm going to speed it up. When I came to LifeRay, the big drive, or one thing that I didn't want to be Oracle. I didn't want to be Microsoft. I didn't want to come into the evil empire. Because as a customer, I sat there, and I remember when the Oracle guys came on Oracle days, it would drive me insane because they'd lie, they'd tell the business lies, and then the business would come back and expect us to drive out those lies for the cost of the license. Well, that just never works. Now, not that LifeRay doesn't, we don't lie either. We have salespeople too. Right? Are there any sales guys in here?
It's being recorded.
Oh, okay. Brian M. Holtz impersonated. Anyway, so we've been in Gardner for the past 2 years, or 3 years? 2 years, I believe? Maybe 3 years. But we're up competing against the big boys now, which is actually very interesting. One thing you'll see too, and this is actually an old one. This is from 2011, but I love this slide because you'll see SharePoint has been up, and LifeRay continues to go up. This is basically where we became productized in the end of 2006, which is it's just I actually think that's like one of the coolest things ever about an organization with 350 people in it. Talking really about the portal quickly and some of the things is we are a modular built portal. We are big into standards, and we are big into open source. The founder is on the JR 286 standard committee as well as the 3.0 committee, which is just starting. But we are very standards-based, very open source organization. I want to allude to something John said earlier. You know, we aren't perfect, and there is no piece of software that's perfect. You will find issues with it. You'll find bugs. You'll find some legacy stuff in there, but I believe we are the best that is out there. So common use cases, and I'm sure you see it, but basically LifeRay is a giant data aggregator, right? So we have a built-in security model, built-in entitlement controls. We can talk about that more later. But in essence, what LifeRay does is pretty much put you out in the front, hook you up to your LDAP system, do some stuff, figure out how to use it on the inside, and then drive data into it, either customization or out-of-the-box portlets, right? So in essence, what we're really good at is providing that data back and forth, and then you can use that application or that, in essence, that schema of application back to whatever you want. But we're seeing a lot of intranets. We're seeing customer portals, a lot of customer portals, and we're seeing a ton of things of that nature. Even dashboards. It's amazing how much LifeRay is becoming. And some of the clients I talk to, I can't mention some of them. I probably can mention this one. Union Pacific Railroad drives all the train data into LifeRay to give them a stoplight. It's really a cool application of it. And it's for their executive team and their management team to really figure out if the trains are on time. I actually thought that was really kind of cool. Reasons for adoption. I talked about this. Just some of our customers that you'll find us out there. We are all across the world, and I'll give you a couple. We'll go through a couple very small cases that are fairly interesting. But in this local market, and actually the justification for having me here as well as some support people, is the amount of people within Minnesota that are using LifeRay at the enterprise level. The big hot markets are basically Chicago, the East Coast, Megalopolis, Texas, California, Minneapolis, and Carmel. So it's kind of weird how it focuses on those business areas. But you get an idea of who we are. Blah, 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 blah.
These slides will be available to
Yeah, we put more slides in here than we
Yeah,
actually
I've got 99, so I'm going to run through a lot. Blah, blah, blah. Cisco Developer Network is run on LifeRay. It's pretty cool what they've done to that. If anybody take a look at that, go to Cisco Developer Network. It's built on LifeRay. And basically what it's built to is the social sharing of information between Cisco developers and Cisco engineers. That's pretty much what it is. I believe there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 users, registered users. I'm not sure, but it's fairly large. They actually uses us for they actually use our social media add-on, which is Social Office. Basically, they're using it for a giant intranet. It's a fairly cool application as well as how they've utilized it, and they actually have ROI studies on it. We're working on them right now to do a white paper on some ROI that they've gained out of it. So some pretty cool stuff there. It doesn't actually look like this. They've cleaned it up, but I didn't have a screenshot of their inside. Telco is Australia's phone company. We have an install down there and it handles all their transactions for their business transactions, but it's 90 servers wide. And basically, I think it's like 1.6 or it's some huge number of users, and it gets like 20,000 users, concurrent users. It's a pretty cool deployment of LifeRay. Moving on. Sesame Street.
My favorite.
2 terabytes of data a day out of content management system, Sesame Street. I didn't know this until I came to LifeRay, but I was a visitor of Sesame Street because I have children and would take a look at it. But that's LifeRay, and it's basically stock. Keep going. So we're going to go through some quick stuff here. Brett, why don't you come up, we'll tag team some of this stuff. Because let me ask you this. How much of this do you want me to go through, or should we pull open a bundle and play with it? I'll go through this relatively quickly and pull up a bundle. Because some of the things, again, back to this thing, LifeRay is built, and this is kind of a personal thing that I always say, I've seen good deployments and I've seen bad deployments. And I've seen good and bad deployments in this market. What the real critical point of a good deployment is that when we see the business allows to have the tools to manage the content, to put everything up, to add, subtract pages, to drop in portlets, to make it pretty and do those things, that's a good deployment. We see it on the other way too, where the business can't do anything without IT involvement. So it's one of those things where, God himself could code the portal and give it to you, but it's how you deploy it is really going to be the difference between success and failure. And it's one thing where we've really seen that the biggest difference is how customers use it. And we definitely try and help and push as much as we possibly can to get, a successful deployment. So we'll go through content management here very quickly. Full web publishing, we do staging, documents, images, library, Office integration, structures and templates for pages and those things. Next. You can view your own repository. Repository is obviously controlled by the security model. Blah, 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 blah. Business can define the content. Blah, 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 blah.
What's the security provider? Is that just Spring Security?
What do you mean?
What are you using for your user data model? Are you looking into LDAP, or are you using Spring Security for
LDAP.
It's LDAP?
No.
Okay, but how do I, so I define my roles and groups in there, but how do I, so it's just not...
It kind of depends on where you want to put the granularity of your security model, right? If you just have a yes or no at the LDAP layer and then control the granularity within LifeRay, you can do it like that. I've seen other ways where it never actually works well, where you put the granularity within LDAP and let that roll down. It kind of depends on your model and how it works within your organization.
We do deployment within a university, right? And so within these universities, sometimes people pay their bills, they don't pay their bills, they register for a course, they don't, maybe they're academically, So you got to check all these different systems, right? So the information is not just in LDAP about this person's permissions and sort of thing, but it's also like in all these other disparate enterprise systems. So all we wrote is an application that basically upon login would go and like ping these different systems and say bam, 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 here, And so we would just check, and then we would on the fly then update the roles prior to actually logging in.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different ways to kind of skin the cat.
One of the nice things, again, business defined content, I'm going to roll through a lot of these so we can get to play with it a little bit. And in fact, if you guys go to LifeRay.com, you can download CE and install it. I'm a project program manager, and I installed LifeRay on my own machine with only one technical support call to Matt in about 2 hours. So now my Mac, that's another story. That's a really big story.
LifeRay Sync Dropbox.
Oh, LifeRay Sync Dropbox. Okay. I talked a little bit about that, but basically, again, back to your content management, you can drop it all from your desktop or from your phone. We can mount other repositories. If it's CMIS compliant, it'll mount. SharePoint's another story. SharePoint is said to be CMIS compliant, but it's not, so we wrote something else that'll drop it. But basically, it'll just mount the file as a file folder. Fairly simply. Go. Next. Asset publishing. One thing that LifeRay really is the content management system that's cool is you can tag it. So you can have your taxonomy and your folksonomy together. You can control the tags to see, and segregate the tags out so end users can only tag it in a certain way. But again, it'll help with your search, obviously, and other things. Next. let's see, what is
And for
this?
search, you can use, you can come to the scene, you can hook solar to it.
GSA.
GSA is what we use at the university, so you can pick your search tool.
Yeah. The latest version of Solar is not yet, well, it's kind of approved. It'll work. Okay. What is this? Oh, content, yeah, related content. Next. Basically, when I go through this content management stuff, think about any enterprise content management system, LifeRay has it all. One of the differences is it's not a lot of legacy code. We've only been around for 12 years. So it's not like, again, we've got, 40 years of code or 30 years of code that we're going through and winding up with PeopleSoft spaghetti code. Advanced publishing, you can stage publishing, you can publish out at different times. You can hook up to a workflow, so a workflow can be approved and hook that up to the publishing piece right out of the box. Faceted search, it'll display it out in the tags, the categories, the relevancy, or no, it doesn't do relevancy. But it'll break it down into facets. Next. User data list. This is basically a way for users to build their own application to enter it. So you can, build a list. It can be as easy as an RSVP or an inventory management system where a user goes in and adds data. You can hook that up to a workflow and approve it. But basically, it's a data input for, I like to call it a glorified spreadsheet. And I forget, what's the SharePoint version of that? There's a SharePoint part, a list. Yeah, I think it actually is a list. Let's see. Okay. Fairly easy to control the site. We'll show you that in a second. Add, subtract pages, drop stuff in. Theme pages for pages, control entitlements for pages at the page level, at the site level, at the object level, at the portlet level. The entitlement controls in LifeRay are pretty robust. I don't think you're going to find a better one. Dynamic site templates, you can template sites out and whip out sites fairly quickly. So if your business client needs to build those quick, small sites to support a marketing campaign, it's fairly easy to do as long as it's set up right in the inside. Multi-device support. If you go to LifeRay.com, we are, and actually LifeRay.com is on 6.0 yet, we still haven't updated it. But we are adaptive compliant right out of the box. And we can do that at the page level as well, or the object level, well, not the object level, but the page level. But out of the box, we're adaptive compliant. I can show you guys some different stuff there. We are Web 2.0. I'm not sure if John's seen it yet. I'm not sure if I believe it if John doesn't, but we are. We do use LLUI, and there's some, I think we've basically taken it over. I know there's kind of controversy on that. It does work well. You can plug in anyone you want, but that's kind of where LifeRay's gone at this point. I think hindsight being, they probably would have made that choice, but they did, and it works. It's easy. It's fairly robust.
You can use whatever you want.
Yeah, you can plug in whatever you want. Next. Collaboration tools. Okay. All your standard social media stuff, blogs, wikis, chats, things like that. It was funny, at the educational institution that John and I worked at, I would explain that portal as Wells Fargo and Facebook together, because it had all those transactional pieces out of the source system, as well as those social media pieces. So friends, walls, activity streams, all those things are portlets right out of the box. Social equity, yeah. Social Office, and I can show you guys Social Office if you want to see it. We can look at that later. I can log into LifeRay Social Office. We use it, and it actually works fairly well. LifeRay is not an at-home company, but we're very spread across the globe. And actually, I found it's, again, I think as any user kind of gets into that, it takes a while to adopt, but now it's taking off for at least us. We haven't seen many people adopt Social Office. I think there's 3 or 4 clients that are using it now, but we're hearing very similar stories that once it takes off, then it does. Next. That's a good slide. SAML hook, LifeRay can consume and can be a provider of SAML. So for your integration, works fairly well. Custom fields. One thing that, again, what we try to do is avoid custom code or having IT going through and drive custom code when the business needs something just stupid as, I need a certain tag somewhere or a certain piece of data on there. You can easily do it within the GUI. So it's fairly straightforward. Next. Whale work forms. Like I said, I got 99, so I'm going quickly. CLAO work forms, basically through a GUI with all it is XML. You can write a workflow. So we've seen workflows within, again, the simple one where the web producer produces the content, it goes to legal approves it, and then it goes live or goes into the staging system to go live at a later date. We've also seen this where they officially use a content management system other than LifeRay. There's one, I believe it's in Texas. They're using UCM, and at the end of the stage of publication, it publishes out to LifeRay, keeps the content within LifeRay Content Management System, and then dumps off a copy within UCM. And they do that for legal requirements within, they're a financial firm, I can't remember what they are. You might be able to, but I'm not sure. But they do that so, again, they can keep that copy of every change as piece in there, and all that goes into UCM. It's an interesting way to do it. Other aspects you can do with that, too, pretty easy. LifeRay Developer Studio, John, you want to?
No, that's right.
Okay. John does it. Oh.
A good interesting point is there's two versions of an IDE for LifeRay. You can use LifeRay IDE, which is basically a set of Eclipse plugins for Eclipse. LifeRay Developer Studio is actually for EE, and you need an EE license for it, but you can try it out. It comes fully bundled. You can basically download a Tomcat zip file, unbundle it, and do Tomcat, start up Matt, and start going with it. So.
One thing I don't think I mentioned too is LifeRay is agnostic to your app server or your database. Oracle, SQL, DB2, whatever you want to run on for a database. On the app tier, it'll pretty much run on everything, even though I would strongly suggest, that's not the official stance, I'd use Tomcat. I think your team knows my pain, or knows that pain. Yeah. So not that it doesn't work and not that it's not supported. We do QA it against. I think we got like 500 VMs with every different configuration, and anytime a patch goes up, we beat it up with automatic tests. The various stacks involved, but Tomcat's just the easiest, fastest way.
Yeah, we find is it works to scale on Tomcat really well. Other app servers that work, but sometimes you end up finding performance issues.
Yeah. So the one, and we're doing that that's on purpose design because, again, we don't want to lock you into the stack. So like IBM or Oracle or whatever will come in and try and lock you to their stack. We don't care. Everything's pretty much officially supported. I can show you that in a second. Next, performance monitoring. That's one of these EE ones. Pretty self-explanatory. Next.
I think this is your last slide.
Is that my last? Oh, did I whip through those slides that quickly?
Yeah,
wow.
Great.
Ooh. Did I go too fast?
Yeah.
Is it boring? No. What we said earlier. EE is basically tuned for performance. It is better QA'd. It is patched regularly, and we offer support. So, is that pretty much signed?
That's it.
All right. I tried to not keep the sale. I'm not a sale guy.
Well, I am Brett Shelton. My first portal experience was 10 years ago using what used to be called Plumtree, which then got bought out by Oracle, which then got bought out by BEA, which then BEA and then Oracle. It went from Plumtree Portal to Aqualogic User Interaction to Oracle Web Center Interaction something or other. So I've had experience over the years on and off using different types of portals. Pretty fun. So who in here has done portal development in general? Anybody? One or two? Okay, so this is good because I sort of thought that I'd want to hit what's different between portal development and a standard web app. And what was the other question I had on there?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, so I guess there's only two who did portal development, which means that probably only two or less of you have done LifeRay development. And has everybody done any other portal type things like SharePoint or something like that? Yes? No? Okay, so maybe a little bit. Awesome. So when you get LifeRay and you get it on your machine, you start running out of box. It'll run you through a little wizard to set up stuff, and it'll actually bring up a website the first time you hit it. Very cool, very easy. So this is just sort of what it would look like starting out. Also, as Brian had mentioned, there's themes that you can install. This is one of them that I went to the marketplace I went through the UI itself, downloaded and installed a theme, created a new site from the theme template, and it just sort of filled everything in. So like a lot of other things like WordPress or other things like that, you can just get a theme, open it up out of the box, and start managing it from there. So this is another place of what it would look like. Also, so once you got a basic site going out, you can choose Add and get a listing of all the portlets that you can add to the page. All web points to so it's pretty cool. Text and searchable, and it works pretty well. But like a lot of products, it does the initial, like, ooh, that's really Ruby on Rails. You know, that first part of oh, it's amazing. That's that. Also, and this is from the EE version, I'm not sure if CE has the same page. So in EE, there's like a server administration area. Down below on this, it doesn't show on the slide, there's things like clearing the cache, other administrative type things. You can do garbage collection, stuff like that. So we also touched earlier on, there's two versions. There's the community edition, there's an enterprise edition. Quite often you will hear them referred to as CE and EE. The difference, or also the CE edition, I guess, would be known as the standard edition sometimes. It's free, it's a community version, you can download it, you can contribute also. And
you know, and it's good to say too, we do have, I mean, there are Fortune 500 companies that use CE.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is now, but just in like active project participants, there were over 9,000 in 2008. What? Active members, yeah.
Oh, in the CE community?
oh, let's see,
Oh, I
community.
think it's like, I don't know, it's a big number.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the nice things is there's a lot of documentation too.
We did that down. Let me Google that.
So the EE version is basically, like Brian has said, you're buying support, but you also get LifeRay Studio, which is sort of film, and you can download a full zip download of the EE. So if you want to do the trial version, make sure you get a license key for it. Otherwise, it's not going to let you do too much with the LifeRay Studio. But I think you can sign up on the website and they'll do their stuff. Also, LifeRay supports the JSR 168 or Portlet 1.0, Portlet 2.0, and remote portlet standards.
Anybody here ever use WSRP? Don't start now.
Okay, so some of the key concepts in LifeRay, just for all users, even your business people would want to sort of get their head around this. That portals are accessed by users. That's pretty easy. Users, you can group or you can have the users belong to an organization. So every user is part of an organization. The organizations can actually be in a hierarchy. So you can have corporate, and then you could have, like East Coast, West Coast, or whatever your organizations are. Brian might have some other ideas of how organizations have been broken up into hierarchies, but it's basically the way you think it. Users can belong to user groups, users, organizations, belong to sites. One thing with LifeRay is that you can actually have basically multiple sites within one instance of LifeRay. So that's pretty nice, where you can sort of divide it out. and those sites can also have a hierarchy. And then the sites have pages with content.
So practical use of that would be like at the university, you have faculty members, you have current students, you have alumni. And so one of the things that they want to do is provide, a kind of a unified experience, but at the same time differentiated, right? So you're going to have different navigational options, maybe slightly different look, different default portlets, which would display on pages, different pages which would be available to those people based on who they were. And so that's how we use organizations. So a member, the user could be a member of one or more organizations, which would then pull together. Because you might have a student who's a faculty member, or a student who's also an alumni, or a faculty member who's an alumni, or a faculty member who's a student. And any of those blend. So it works pretty well for that.
Okay, so where do I start?
I like how you did the big question.
You can go download CE and install the plugins for Eclipse, or I think if you're really interested in it, I would probably shoot to get a trial license and try out Studio. Pretty slick. Download a whole bundle, unzip it, go into Tomcat, bin, run the startup. It'll open the web page for you usually, and run you through a couple scripts and you're up. Okay, so LifeRay has a number of different customization options. In general, they're all called, well, almost all of them are called plugins. So portlets are plugins. Hooks allow you to customize JSPs, properties, pre and post login type stuff. So there are ways that you can customize the core of LifeRay without actually modifying the core WAR file. Themes we've talked about. Layout templates are just basically page templates or site templates. EXT plugins are a way, at least in my mind at this point, that you can customize the core WAR file, but it's in a separate, like, Eclipse project. So you can do a little bit more customizations that way. Standard websites, you can sort of, there's a way to hook in there a little bit, and then JSP hooks are sort of a type of hook. And then last but not least, you can actually modify LifeRay core, but that's pretty, yeah,
I think between
much more difficult to upgrade.
Between the EXT and creating custom portlets, you should be able to meet almost any.
Yep. Okay, so the SDK basically is comprised of like some AMP build scripts and deploy scripts. It's kind of cool because when you use Studio, everything is actually linked in through Eclipse, and you can just run all those AMP scripts right through Eclipse, or you can run them through the command line. What is very nice is that if you like IntelliJ IDEA with all of the JSP happiness that it provides to you, you can use that with the command line, and you're really not out hardly anything. There's wizards in Studio. It also starts out with a standard folder structure for your project. Gives you the API for accessing portal resources, some base classes to extend for implementing like a standard portlet. Tag libraries are available in there. We mentioned a little bit about Alloy UI. It's, I guess, more than just a JavaScript framework because it does sort of have some widgets and stuff a little bit, but it's basically a wrapper around YUI. So if you go into your browser on a page and you type in AUI parentheses semicolon and enter, it gives you an instance of YUI. So who knows what YUI is? Okay, Yahoo user interface. So it's the framework that Yahoo uses. It comes bundled with LifeRay. It's available on every page because of that. But you
Who
can
raised
also
their
use
hand
it
right
for-
there? Who's that?
Oh.
All right, with this, we got three videos. LifeRay doesn't have very good swag, so we have to steal less than 3 videos. Who is this?
Who wants a scrunchie?
Nice.
Who else needs a stress scrunchie? We'll
Like
pick
her
out
never
some
gets
names
that.
out of the, we have the names out here, we'll pick out some names out of the hat for that later on too.
And then also with the SDK, there's a service builder framework, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So, the web page. From the end user standpoint, it's a web page. You go and look at Sesame Street. It's a web page. No one really tells the difference. So, next slide. This is what most of you probably understand from a developer standpoint, even if you can't read my small type. Browser makes a request, and the web server gives you a response. The whole life cycle is pretty straightforward.
Thanks, good presentation.
Thank you.
Right here's the
That was So, in a portal application, it's a little bit different. If you focus on the bottom half of this slide first, you'll notice that once the client browser comes in with a request, there's a request for portlet A, and it sends back an HTML fragment, and another request back to portlet B, and that sends another fragment back. Each portlet in LifeRay is actually bundled with a separate WAR file, and there's basically another request that goes back out to those other portlets. So these two requests to your two portlets are completely separate. They're not the same. They can happen in any order or at the same time. Nothing's guaranteed according to the standard. The top third of the page is called an action request. So if you have a form on a page and you submit it, you're actually submitting the form to a particular application or a particular WAR file, a particular portlet WAR. The action request will go to that portlet A. It responds back to the portal with a, yep, I'm okay, and or whatever else. And then your render request for all the other portlets on the page is displayed. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit different than your standard application.
So,
yes.
So how does development work in that environment? Let's say I'm rolling through and I'm making some changes in WAR file A. Does it need to deploy a whole, like, how fast is, I've made some changes in back-end and front-end code. Do I have to, like, are there any hooks, like with JRebel or anything like that to allow me to just not have to restart the server?
Yes. So when you're using LifeRay and the SDK and stuff, you can run the Ant script or from the IDE. And there's actually like a deploy directory that LifeRay has created like special hooks for. And so you run the Ant script and it puts it in your WAR file and you deploy and it'll hot deploy your changes.
Okay.
So you're usually only changing one portlet at a time, and it only has to deploy that one portlet WAR at a time.
Okay.
We don't see a lot of enterprise customers using the hot deploy feature in Prod.
Not in prod.
Talk about when you're developing, right?
Yeah. During development.
Surprisingly, some medium customers do use it in Prod. Who's using Ajax underneath Ajax?
There's no Ajax here.
Tomcat
These are actually
has a hot
HTTP
deploy
prep.
kind of option now.
So, a couple questions about this slide. How do the two portlets communicate? What?
They don't.
One answer is they don't.
Jump in.
Woohoo! How else could they communicate? MVC framework? And, if portlet A on the action request saves out something to a shared session across the portal, when the render request comes in with portlet B, it can access the session. So that's one way. Second way, in portlet 2.0, they decided to, I don't know, expand on the specification, obviously. And so between the action request and the render request, they have these events that can be passed around. So don't worry too much about this right now, but during the action request from portlet A, you could send up an event, and an event gets sent to all the portlets on the page, and then after that the renders would be called. But then during that event, if portlet B gets the event, it could actually raise another event, and all the portlets would get that event. So it gets real complicated real fast. The other way someone sort of mentioned was JavaScript. Have the portlets communicate in the client side. You can use JavaScript events, stuff like that. Okay, so in the servlet, you basically saw your init and destroy, similar with portlet, but every request comes through service in a servlet. With a portlet, you have render requests, your actions, your process actions. Serve resource is an interesting one. If you back up one slide, you'll notice when these portlets are responding back, they're only sending HTML fragments. And the portal will take those fragments and build the whole page from them. So what happens if you respond with JSON? The portal thinks that, oh, well, I'm going to wrap that with the whole page, which you don't really want. You don't want header HTML and all those includes and everything else. You just want the JSON going out to your AJAX call, and that's what that serve request method is for.
So here, is it going to wait till all the portlet responses are back to build the whole page?
That's basically up to the implementation of the portal. I think LifeRay is doing that all on the server side, so yes. But it,
I think it is.
it could make all of those in parallel
Or serial.
or serial.
Yeah.
You don't really
So-
know.
An install that I'm relatively familiar with has 38 portlets on the front page and loads in under 5 seconds. Yep, 38 portlets. And I know that client had a separate assessment, and they basically said, wow, I can't believe that. So, obviously, you don't want too many on your, on each page, but it's been done.
There was a lot of tuning. A lot of those portlets too were just maybe holders of other portlets.
Yeah, a lot of tuning on that install.
And I don't know about that install, but another option, just like standard web pages, is go ahead and respond back with almost nothing, and then make a separate AJAX call to fill in the concepts. So if you have a web service that takes 2 seconds for one portlet on the page, I would maybe just look at something like that, or do something on login. If you know that for every user you need this piece of data, go ahead and ask for it in the background, and so when you get to it, you'll have it. Okay, next slide. Also with portlets, there's 3 basic modes of portlets: view, which is a render mode; edit, which is a render mode; and help. So back with Portlet 1.0, there was this great idea that on the top of the portlet you'd come with a standard view, and then you could edit the portlet, or you could click a little help icon or whatever else. Basically, from what I've seen, edit and help really aren't used very much. You just sort of go through the render mode or the view mode. There's also 3 states to portlets. The standard mode or the normal mode is just whatever size it is on the page when it initially renders, but you can also maximize it so it takes the full page. So if you have, it's a great use case right now, but instead of linking in the small portlet, say render the same portlet but have it take up the whole page, you can do some work, and then you can return back to the normal page, and it's small, and all the other portlets. Minimize probably won't use. I mean, you can think of a portlet with a title bar. You could close the title bar and it would display, shrink.
Maybe if somebody, organization, kind of from the mountain, didn't want a portlet to be removed from the page, but wanted to provide users with control. The option.
So, not a big deal. Okay, so what does it look like? Hopefully this is big enough so some of you can see it. We've got an init method. We've got our process phase, do edit, which is another render, do view, which is a render, and then a basic include method that will sort of follow to the JSP. But what about this slide makes you uncomfortable? What's different about it than if you're following Java standards? Clear, make it nice and loud so we can hear you.
Protected string, edit JSP, protected string, view
Okay.
JSP.
Where should they be?
Up at the top, private.
Okay. In the configuration file. These things at the bottom just don't make sense to most developers of where they would look for it. So my recommendation is follow the Java standard, put them on top. Put them where you would expect them to see your private fields and stuff like that. Next. So opening up 2 of those methods. The do view, basically going to get some preferences. It's going to pull a preference, a portal preference called name. If it doesn't have a value, it's going to use the default value. Request.set attribute, look familiar? Yep, yep. And then the include is going to do this dispatching of the JSP. Kind of feels messy to me. Just a little bit messier than what you would expect a little bit. True? Or does okay, we'll go on. open it up to do edit. All we're going to do is include a JSP page. Oh, compared to what you see in your actual day-to-day job, this is awesome.
You know what we're talking
Yeah. So, process action. Think of it as a form submit. Okay? Grab the name off the request, get the preferences, set the name that you pulled off the request into that preferences and store them, and then we're going to set the mode to view. So what gets called after process action?
Render?
Yes, a render phase. Usually do view. This is going to be in the view mode. If you have errors, where do you want it to go? You just displayed a full, let's say you have a person's address on the page. They go into edit mode. They correct their address. They submit the form, and there's an error on the form. You want to go back to edit. So either you have to change the portlet mode here and have it go there, or what I did initially, most recently, as a mistake, is it automatically goes back to the do view, the default render, and then you have to handle where you want to go with the JSP from that render mode to the other one. It can get kind of messy because of that. There's a way that you could, well, Spring MVC will let you return just a string, or I've also customized an extension to the LifeRay MVC framework to do about the same thing, where you just say return edit, and then it will do the correct method call there. Going on. Okay, so XML
Random House
configuration. Ooh, we love that. This is the standard portlet XML that you'd find for just about any Java portlet framework. You got the name, the display name, the class that you want to use. Here's our parameters of where the JSPs are, and the rest we don't really care about so much. Next. So here's your view of JSP. Anybody uncomfortable with it? Why? Come on.
Scriptless. Scriptless?
Scriptlets, they're awesome.
Yeah.
You should always write code in scriptlets. Yeah, you can use JSTL, and scriptlet code is not unusual in training stuff from LifeRay. And so
I didn't write that.
Brian didn't write the training. You will find scriptlets in LifeRay code. So suggestion: do your best to use JSTL. Follow Java standards. Yeah. Anything else? Define portlets or define objects. It's just one of the tags that you get. It'll define a whole bunch of attributes that you then have access to, like one that's called theme display, which includes a whole bunch of stuff that's really not related to the theme. Like you can get the current user, stuff like that. It also gives you a few more objects, the render request object, stuff like that.
Is that typically on most pages?
Yeah, I would include that in just about any page. Yep. Next, the edit JSP page. Okay, so let's look at this little box first. In order for you to create a URL in your portlet code, you need to create a URL that will actually, the browser will go to the portal. And so you can use a tag library to say, well, I want a render request. I want to add something from the render phase, and I can pass in a couple of parameters if I want, or I want an action phase URL. And that will add on any of the extra attributes and stuff the portal needs for you. Action URL will actually create a URL that will hit the portal and then forward back to your portlet for that particular portlet where this is set up. And after that finishes, it'll call back to the render for each of the portlets. A render URL will just go directly to the portal page that then will render each of the portlets. So one of the things that's unusual up here is this ugly thing that looks like portlet namespace. Why do you need it? Yes. How many portlets on your page? N, correctly. So if you name your form FM, like I've seen, and 3 other portlets call their portlet FM, you will have duplicates. You create your JavaScript and you say, grab me the form that's called FM, and you will get one of them, or a set of them, or whatever else, and you won't know which one. So it's important to namespace them. What I've done is I usually create a CSET tag using JSTL, put this as a value in there, so then I have a nice little JSTL expression called NS for namespace. It shrinks it up, and I don't have to look at the ugly tag there. Now, this is also using a standard form tag. You can use an AUI tag that also will automatically namespace it for you. So that's kind of nice. Then when you submit your form as well, all your fields on the form will also have that namespacing. Kind of interesting. Okay, more XML. So this is LifeRay's, one of LifeRay's XML configurations for a portlet. You can tell whether or not it's instantiable. Basically it means, can I have only 1 or 0, or can I have more than 1? If it's instantiable, you can add the portlet to the page more than once. Other things, you can specify a CSS file for the header to be displayed. So this will automatically get put into the header of the HTML file that gets returned to the browser. And then you have footer JavaScript, so the JavaScript file that will footer the page. And then there's a CSS class wrapper, which this is a default. But basically then, when the portlet displays, this class will be added to one of the divs, so that when you're doing your CSS specifications, you say the H1 inside this portlet only, so you can customize the things inside that portlet. Because if you just say H1, it's going to customize it for everything in the entire page, or a combination of your H1 and some other portlet's H1 and the third portlet's H1. Okay, next.
Is there a uniqueness in that? Well, you wouldn't want it. Never mind.
Okay. I think this is the last XML file. When you are on a page and you click Add to add a portlet, LifeRay will put your portlets in categories. This is where you specify the category, so this will be under a category called Sample. So you can organize your portlets in groupings just for the end users. Okay, a properties file, but luckily the IDE has given us a nice editor. This is actually really cool, I think. This was cool. So LifeRay has a bunch of jar files that you probably already want to use anyways, like Commons Lang, Commons Collections, stuff like that. All you have to do is add it to this property file, or through the editor here, and it'll automatically, during build, pull in that jar file for you. So there's a whole bunch of them that you're already going to use. You know, just grab the ones you want. You don't have to worry about downloading it or whatever else, and it'll pull it so it uses the same version and everything. Same with TLDs for tag libraries.
What does that use? Does that use Ivy?
It's using ANT.
But yeah, but Ivy is a plugin for ANT that basically uses the Maven repository.
It's going to pull it from your current LifeRay instance.
Okay.
So all your portlets will have the same version of Commons Lang. Yep. Okay. Fun stuff here. More stuff that should make you a little uncomfortable. Struts. Anybody? Yeah. JSF. Fans of JSF. I was talking to somebody, I'll just say the last 10 years, and they said, oh yeah, we did a portal with JSF, and that's the way you should go about it. I was like, you're kidding me. I've never really done JSF, but it just seems to me that, Spring Portlet MVC, standard portlet framework that supports standards. Tapestry, LifeRay MVC, they have their own MVC framework. And PHP, surprisingly, I don't know why people would use a Java portal and write their portlets in PHP, but you can. Yeah, they have PHP developers, I guess. So, and there's a whole bunch of others. Obviously you can try WSRP and really hurt yourself as well. Okay, LifeRay Service Builder. This is, I think, is this kind of new for LifeRay in 6.0 or?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Definitely 6.0.
This is kind of kind of cool. You can basically specify a model in an XML file, and it will create local services that you call within your own LifeRay portlets and stuff like that. It'll provide remote web services, and it will actually, this is really weird, I saw this in the project that I was on, and you can actually, it'll actually create the service in JavaScript. So in JavaScript on your page, you can actually make a call out to a service which automatically remotes back to the back-end service jar file for your portlet. It really made it confusing for me to find out where is this happening, because I expected to see like an AJAX call or something like that, and they weren't using the serve resource. They were just calling the service directly through JavaScript, which was kind of cool, I guess. It's built on Hibernate and Spring LP, so the documentation says, provides transactions, and in your portlet, like controller classes, the way that you access these is through a portal. Like, let's say you create a foo service. It creates a foo util and a whole bunch of other classes, and then it creates static methods on that foo util jar for you to call, which made me just a little uncomfortable, because I'm like, if I know Spring is underneath, why can't I just use an instance of it? So I need to do some more research on that and stuff. And yet, probably another reason why I would probably prefer Spring MVC. Because if Spring is there and I can inject the service, then I can also mock it out a little better instead of using the util static classes. I just don't like static classes. For certain things, they're okay. But I don't want to use power mods to get around that. Expandos and custom fields are a way to add properties to the portal entity. So Brian's example was, let's say you have, I don't know, hire date for employees. You could add that as a custom field through the UI without having any developers touch it, and then users can go in and add that under the UI. Not necessarily the easiest way to get to that area to add the text for the custom field, but you can do it. It does provide CRUD operation. But where some of the power is there is you can actually call it an expando, same thing, and as a developer you can either create it through the UI or you can create it in code, and then you don't have to worry about going in and changing the schema. It just takes care of it for you, and then you can access it through your code and set or get the expando values. So it's pretty good, and I would probably use it for things that, or entities that LifeRay already has out there. Okay, this is nearing the end. Best practice and suggestions. So this is, from my months and months and months of experience actually coding in LifeRay. When you're choosing plugins, choose the least invasive. So don't go in and try to change LifeRay core code out of the box right away. Try with a portlet first. If you can't do it with a portlet or a theme, go down to a hook, which is sort of a lighter weight way to get into some customizations. There might be a property file that you just want to change one property, so a hook will value that. EXT gets a little bit deeper, and each level gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So when you're making customizations, just try to stay as lightweight as possible. Namespace. So that's the biggest, other than the life cycle between portlet development and standard web application development, that's the biggest thing to remember. You create an ID called name. It's shared on this page with any other portlet that decides to have an ID called name. So namespace everything. Same with your JavaScript. Your JavaScript global variables probably shouldn't be X, because someone else will probably use X. And then just good JavaScript practices. Whenever you can, put a lot of your JavaScript in anonymous classes or anonymous methods and stuff like functions. So then all your fields are within that block of code and not going to pollute other things. My suggestion would be to leverage Portlet Spring MVC, and LifeRay does support that usage. I even found it in the training. And I believe, John, one of the big places that you were at, you guys use Spring Portlet MVC as well, exclusively. And from talking with John, my understanding is they basically tried to do everything as standard as possible with Spring Portlet MVC, and make it as little as little of LifeRay as possible, so that, if you want to go to a different portal, you could, but you would absolutely never do that, right, Brian?
The other thing we would do, like on your first point there, is maybe there's a portal that does almost everything that you want it to do. So maybe there's configuration options that you want to put on it so that the user can tweak it, or maybe there's some kind of specific rule or additional piece of data that it needs to function. What we would do is we would just take it, make a copy of it, make our changes to the copy, and then re-register that plugin. And then you're dropping your own version of the plugin versus the core plugin and not modifying core code. So then when you go to round up your portlets, you just grab the ones that you created that you're using and drop them in there and register.
That's a good upgrade path, too, because then you could upgrade the portal, and if the implementation or API changes, it's not a problem because you have your own portlet.
Yeah, and as long as you're following the standards, they'll work in the next version of the upgrade. I know that going from 4 to 5 in LifeRay, you talk about upgrades, and there were some challenges at the database. There were some pretty significant database changes and scripts to help you through it. So, of course, they weren't 100% bulletproof for everybody's actual implementation. I think the product has matured. I mean, since kind of the 5.x has come out, I think you've seen a much higher level of product maturity, and I think you see greater stability, especially at the data level. So we haven't seen any major, and it's 6.1 now, and there wasn't a major data issues at 5 minutes. So that was good.
And then lastly, I would say follow the standards that you know as much as possible. You bring in an official LifeRay guy, they maybe can't support some of the standard Java standards that you would know. They've been taught to do a certain way, a certain thing. But in your organization, I would say, stick with your Java standards. If we were following LifeRay's standards, and they hooked up Sonar to check our code and stuff like that, and ooh, the flags go off and stuff like that. So, follow what you know, and so when a new Java guy comes in, it's going to be as they expect. Use your JSTL, try to keep as much scriptlets out as possible, keep your portlets, small. You can put multiple portlets into one project. So normally in training, you're just doing a couple things at a time, so create a new project to start you fresh each time. But you can bundle a bunch of portlets in one WAR file. So instead of having 15, 20 WAR files, pare it down to like 4. I think that'll help too. There'll be less things to deploy in Tomcat, or whatever.
Yeah, we compartmentalize that a lot of times by kind of major function of the site. If you knew that a particular stakeholder was going to come back and adjust something, maybe those things were fairly intertwined. You knew you were going to have to touch more than one portlet anyway. Those would be the types of things that we would bundle. But we certainly wouldn't try to bundle necessarily everything on the home page just on the home page. We think that might certainly.
So if you come into a website where it's fully implemented, that customer has a fully implemented website, rather large, and you want it into LifeRay, is it kind of a replace the whole website type of an approach, or is it a let's try and get this working with maybe login page first?
It depends on how it's put, what you specifically you're starting with.
Either way, either approach could work.
Well, there's a big paradigm shift, huge paradigm shift. Because remember, it's not request response anymore. It's not, the whole way that you build a portal is different. You're using some of the same technologies, but it's not like, oh, well, we have one website, and we're just going to wrap it in portal.
Even to the point, it's organizationally challenging sometimes because of the difference between front end and back end. To be honest with you, front end guys do not like LifeRay. And if you look at the code, if you write, you look at the source code, it's machine code. It comes out as machine code. Well, front end guys hate that, right? And so even in some organizations, and particularly one I was at as a consultant, it had a big danger in the product just because of the paradigm shift that wasn't able to be accomplished by them. You know what I mean?
There's a couple other things, I guess, that LifeRay does too around there. Is that like it'll minimize your JavaScript for you and throw it on the page. It'll do some of those things, and so for development, you want to look at probably turning some of those off, because no one likes looking at minified JavaScript to try to debug.
Minify all the JavaScript or just your JavaScript?
Like any of the JavaScript includes that you have, it'll minimize them before it sends it out. So, but there's a preference, you can turn it off.
I think too it depends a little bit, Warren, on the amount of effort. I mean, oftentimes, regardless of kind of your platform, you know that, especially doing at the enterprise level, the content is the big hiccup, right? A lot of times some of the technology, the underpinnings, and standing up a framework to actually deploy that content is actually, maybe just half the work, So, I mean, if you had a CMS that already had a bunch of your content and it was appropriately organized, there's some, your migration from one platform to another is going to be a lot easier. Also, you have LDAP in place. Do you have the right attributes in there to define your users? And you create separate integration for that. We've integrated it with PeopleSoft, Do the web services exist in PeopleSoft to pull down the information you need to do this? Or have they ever even used Integration Broker before to talk to applications outside of PeopleSoft? So, I mean, every kind of installs a different degree, But like Brian said, well, Dan did it. I mean, how long did it, you just grabbed the manual and started installing it. How long did it take you? 2-3 hours. Yeah. Getting a site up and running is nothing. That's content theming and roles, any workflow that needs to be there.
You guys want to see these things specifically? This is a running bundle. I did blow up my one on my laptop, but it does run on a MacBook Pro without an issue. Is there anything you guys want to see?
I got two quick questions. Are there any built commerce plugins available?
E-commerce? No. We do have e-commerce functionality. Honestly, nobody uses for e-commerce on a big scale. We do have a lot of medium-sized organizations that do it, but you're never going to see us at a, Amazon level or a Best Buy level. But there are. In fact, we could probably add them. I think there's a shopping. I've actually never used this before. So, you do see us in medium and small size organizations for e-commerce as well. But you'll never see us in big ones. Or, well, not right now.
And does anyone provide Liferay shared hosting, like with WordPress and a lot of the other ones?
So there's a couple partners that provide hosting. Liferay does too. We're offering managed services now, where in essence we'll host it, support it, manage the licenses, manage all that kind of stuff. So we do it. We have 2 data centers.
What are your tools and admin capabilities for running farms of these servers?
You mean in a clustered fashion, or?
Yeah, clustered and the trust and how is that all managed?
Well, in general, so I talked about that one down in Australia that's 90 deep. In essence, I can show you here. We can play with it if I go into the control panel, but you can turn on clustering right from there, right from the control panel. You can turn on depending on, and I forget what it uses, but it uses a broadcast protocol, and one node finds the other. Then they just chat. Is that what you mean? Or can I answer your question?
Yeah, and then do you have an admin page where I can see my 50 servers and which one's hot and which one's not?
No, you can't. That's a good point, because you're not at that level. We're not at the aggregate level, because it's JVM or JVM by JVM.
Okay.
So you don't see it as that. That's actually a good idea.
Can we share the portlets with the minor functional differences? Like one portlet can be served for the different content displays?
Can a portlet display?
I mean to say like one portlet can be served for the two different purposes.
Oh, like a web content portlet?
Yeah, something like
Sure. You can take a piece of web content and you can we can add another web content. So I just added one. So now I've got a separate one. I can then go and hook it up to a different piece of web content, or I could make one. Do this backwards. So there's two web content displays.
Yeah, there's web content display portlets, there's asset display portlets. So you can pull in content about from anywhere. They also, most of the portlets are RSS 2.0 enabled. So if you want a quick way of getting data out of a portlet to somewhere else, you can do that with the RSS. It's kind of internally wired that way. One of the gotchas is when you put the thing in, you better make sure you turn that stuff off from a permissions level. Otherwise, you might not be able to get the page to render, but you might be able to get the RSS feed content out. So that's a mistake that we see sometimes.
Custom portlets through the API, you can figure out who the user is, what page you're on, what site you're in, what organization you're in, and you can make custom layouts and custom content because of that.
You can auto-enroll people in those user groups. You can allow people to opt in themselves and opt out. So you can allow people to create their own groups if you'd like.
Any others?
With the demo version, what database do you guys have incorporated into it when you add wattage?
I think it comes with the
When you
in-memory.
Yeah, when you download it, what is that?
It starts with an H, I can't remember what it is. But otherwise, you just create a MySQL instance and point it at it. It'll create the database for you, the whole schema and everything. But for demoing, if you just want to pull it up for 30 minutes, it'll run it'll create an in-memory database for you.
Can't do much with it, but it works.
Anything else?
How many, is there you had said you had 38 portlets on one page, right? So is there a number out there, some sort of guideline where, you're getting past that limit? Or, I mean, actually, is there a best practices resource that LifeRay offers for doing that type of development, for those types, to answer those kind of questions?
It's really going to be, I think, performance-based more than anything. Because if you're just throwing up web content, it'd be not much, right? If that thing is calling 6 services, 8 services in the background to pull together some kind of heads-up display or dashboard because it's going to different systems and hitting all over, then it's really a page load time kind of thing, which is where you either get into kind of, progressive loading kind of thing, or, wait for the page to load in its entirety.
Good thing you answered that.
What kind of content is available on the marketplace? Is it mostly themes, or are there like portlets you can install?
Let's take a look. No, it's not themes. It's mostly applications. I mean, theming in general is most people build their own. I think the reason we throw themes up there is because, again, there's kind of a lack of community for publicly based themes. Everybody builds their own. Let's see what's in the marketplace. You can take a look at it. It's also online, but there's quite a few. This is the new to marketplace feature products. We put a lot of the plugins, for the enterprise basically up there, and as long as you have enterprise edition, it's free. Community edition it won't plug into, so you'll see quite a bit on there. And again, this is growing quite a bit.
The store is relatively new, correct?
Yeah, the store is new since 6.1GA2. And if you guys do, go to LifeRay.com, create an account, and you can download a trial. If you want to use CE, you can download CE to play with. It comes bundled. It's fairly simple.
What are the browser requirements?
Don't use IE7.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, and that is one of the funny things when you are, when you sit on the vendor side, you do wind up with clients, and I'm sure you're all used to it, who have that requirement for IE7. We even have a lot of clients in Japan, because I guess the Japanese market is very conservative. They're still using IE6. I'm not joking. So we actually have, and I wish we changed this a little bit, but you have to do some tuning for 7 and 6. Obviously, you got to get rid of JavaScript and stuff like that. But basically, everything's supported. I can show you guys the support matrix as well.
We, the university site had to be pretty strongly 508 compliant. So JAWS, screen reader compliant, all that kind of stuff, and that was compatible on the IE6 when we were done, passed all tests.
Here's a good example. I just hit liferay.com and see the same URL. And I don't think the screen size will give us, yep, there we go. So you'll see it in there. But as far as our, if I can find it.
So, question, how is this portal perform on a mobile side? Does it perform on a mobile side?
As far as,
Let's say I have like, you take a number like 38, which you said, say I will render that on a mobile browser.
So it's gonna, I mean, most of it's gonna depend on what you have in your portlet. If you throw images out there that are huge, it's gonna take longer to download.
Is there any optimization with that just for the mobile browsers?
I'm not sure specifically for mobile browsers, but like.
I mean, it'd be tied in with your theme, right? So you might have like a mobile theme versus, you know, a responsive web design, which is something different. Potentially hide some things, not make certain calls.
Well, I think we should be finished up. We can answer more questions afterwards.
But you have a multilingual support multi-language. Translation service.
Yep, it's a standard resource bundle for languages. The SDK will actually, one of the things you can do is you can have it build, and it will build out the languages that you want. It'll basically give you a different resource bundle for each language, put some default information in there, and then sort of indicate which lines have been translated. And so as you add lines and you rerun the language bundle, you'll be able to see which ones have actually been fully translated and which keys need to be translated still. So, works pretty well.
I guess a couple other kind of wrapping notes too is we've had so far one kind of Twin Cities Liferay user group meeting. We plan to have more in this upcoming year. So if you're interested at all in learning more about it or what it does or just want to talk about it, you can look for that. And then I guess the only other thing, again, wrapping, is that you know, at MCG we're a Liferay partner. You know, you kind of heard the story. We kind of stumbled into it really in 2008, just via kind of a product evaluation for one of our customers. But we find it to be a really pretty cool technology. So if you have any questions, you can certainly call Brett or myself or Brian.
and I do have cards with me. Just if you need any help or you have any questions, give me a call. Thank you.
We have